Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, part 8 of our season preview series. What will make or break the Suns season? And can they get their good vibes back? Please, let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Suns. I am Brendon Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a Credential Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Wednesday. Don't forget, Locked On Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, so click that follow or subscribe button to do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer. Get Locked On to the Phoenix Suns each and every day. Today's episode, guys, is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. More from them later on in the show. But first, joining me as always, the executive producer of The Drive on Fox Sports 910 from the wonderful and warm West Valley. How are we feeling on this Wednesday, Ben Garcia?
It's a little toasty in here. I'm not going to lie to you. It is a little toasty. I'm starting to sweat a little bit, but I think it's just because the Suns season's coming in hot and heavy. But I'm ready to go. I feel good.
We're going to break 100 in October. So yeah, maybe that's a good sign that the Suns, in the month that the NBA starts, the sun is with us still. I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of good vibe or juju going on there. Okay, today's question as we continue our season preview series, what's going to make or break the Suns season? And we'll answer that question, I think, more on a basketball and team standpoint. We'll also answer that question kind of from a fan standpoint, right? I think there's a little bit of two directions you can take that. We'll look at it from both ways. What has to happen? What's going to make the Suns season? What's going to be the thing that goes from, we'll see, to, wow, they're really in contention here?
You know, it's so easy, and I'm afraid when I say that you might use this. I think it's way too easy just to be like, well, the big three has got to work better together. I think ultimately it's got to be.
Definitely thought about that one.
Well, because it's just right? You know what? We'll just talk about that really quickly. That'd be a bonus one, just really quickly. We know the big three has to work well together. If they don't work well together, and they do at times, but if they can't figure out a better way to collaborate better and distribute whose time it is to go off now and be able to play off each other a little bit better, which will come with time, which will come if they stay healthy, that is obviously true. But the Suns aren't even making the playoffs if they don't figure that out to some extent. Yeah. I think, and I've been beating this drum, I think what makes the Suns season is what Mike Budenholzer can do for this team offensively, especially if I'm getting very, very minute, the fourth quarter. We cannot have another year where the fourth quarter is so abysmal because there was a reason for it, right? As much as I think the wing depth was an issue, and as much as I think the front court was an issue, I think it was clearly the fact that in the fourth quarter, they just blew it up half the time. And what's going to fix that? Tyus Jones. But if I say Tyus Jones, I think I got to get even more specific. And who's going to direct that ship? It's going to be Mike Budenholzer. If he is the missing piece to the Suns offense and the biggest splash hire or signing or whatever it is, he's got to be the guy that fixes it. We paid him a lot of money to come here. They got rid of Frank Vogel. They shipped his bleep right on out of here. And they brought in Budenholzer. He has got to figure out how to stagnate these fourth quarters effectively. He's got to figure out who's going to be the guy. He's got to figure out matchups. It cannot be, once again, Frank Vogel just saying, big three, cook and bail me out and come back in every fourth quarter like he did against the Kings. Budenholzer is what's going to make or break this season. If I'm just going something off of the big three, if I'm not just saying, well, Bradley Beal's got to be great or Kevin Durant's got to be great, Devin Booker, I think even more important than all of that is Budenholzer's got to make this team fit much better in the fourth quarter.
Couldn't agree more. I have a slightly different version that I will explain on the break side when we jump in there next. just to lay out the numbers as a reminder for anybody who needs it. Suns had a 118.3 offensive rating last season. That was good for 9th in the league. In the fourth quarter, 105.1. So really, like, to get as basic as it can be here, Ben, imagine if they were, I'll tell you, average offensive rating in the fourth quarter. The 15th team was 114.8 points per 100 possessions. So that'd be 9 more than what the Suns had. If they were just that, right there, middle of the pack, average, normal, in those fourth quarters, you're probably talking about the overall offense getting closer to top 5, right? Like it's almost impossible to separate how ugly that late game stuff got from every other evaluation tool we have for this team. It's not possible. Yeah, what? Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's so tricky to figure out what the actual, like, to pinpoint what was actually the problem in the fourth quarter. Because do you remember how many times it could be the Charlotte Hornets? We're like, I don't know, the Suns are only up 12 going up in the fourth quarter. It was almost like it was a mental block. It made no sense. It made no, I couldn't tell you why. I couldn't.
I thought you were going to say
it.
It's hard to tell how good the Suns were last year.
Well,
because of that. I mean, it is, right? It is a little bit difficult because they could be killer for 3 quarters and fall off a cliff, or any sort of other possibility within that. It was very tricky. So I think just consistency would go a long way for everybody's sanity here. But my make, and it's intentionally open-ended here, is that someone steps up to be this team's Derek White, Aaron Gordon, Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Kuzma, every championship team. I just listed 4 out of the past 5 NBA champions. I excluded the who did I exclude? The Bucks, who beat the Suns, because they didn't really have a guy like this, frankly.
Bobby
Drew
Portis.
Holiday was a Bobby Portis, sure. Yeah, that works.
He's kind of that guy.
Yeah. But really, even, I guess the other point here I'm making is not just two-way wing, but it's even more than that. It's these 4 guys who I just listed all sacrificed, right? They all, Aaron Gordon, Andrew Wiggins, those guys were players who were max dudes at one point in their career, top picks in the draft, who had to take a step back and say, I'm going to be something else to go out and try to win a championship, and it worked. Derek White, he's always kind of had that, but it's perfect. And Kuzma, never an all-star, but also on that Lakers team in the bubble, he wasn't jacking shots like he does now. So whether that's Bradley Beal or, frankly, even a little bit of a different approach from a guy like Kevin Durant, I think it could go either way. Devin Booker maybe leaning more into some of these qualities, but more likely is somebody on this team embracing defense more than they have. Somebody even, maybe Grayson Allen has an unforeseen leap in him, whatever it might look like. Or where I think you and I, Ben, are maybe most in line is that this guy comes from externally, right? We talked about it yesterday, and that might just be a player that's not on the team right now.
Yeah, a PJ Washington, a Derek White-esque player. It's tough. It really is tough, Brendon. I don't think that guy's on this roster, and I'm not 1,000% sure they can go get that guy. I mean, Derek White was stellar. I mean, he was at times he was the Celtics' second best player at times, and he did it sacrificing, and he was a two-way player. I don't know if the Suns have that guy. I don't know.
Probably
if they
not
do.
as good as these 4, right? That's unlikely.
I don't think Bradley Beal. I think Bradley Beal is a better player than Derek White. Now, would I take Derek White over Bradley Beal right now? I would, because he fits better. I don't think Bradley Beal can go from what he was, a fringe superstar, but probably more of a star in this league, to Derek White. I don't think he can do that. I don't think he has the body type to do so. I don't think he has the durability to do so. It really worries me that you say that, because if I'm picking a guy, I think it's Grayson Allen, and I voiced my concerns about Grayson Allen fitting on this team this year. yesterday.
You didn't buy yoked Grayson Allen. You didn't.
No.
Okay.
He's gonna start running and he's gonna slim down pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I think the other thing too is, right, you inevitably come back to the problem we talked about yesterday, which is that the Suns don't even have guys who are the same size as the dudes I just listed. And Derek White plays like he's 6 inches taller than he is because he blocks everything in his vicinity every time he's out there. So even he's not exactly a traditional guard. You can use him as really a Swiss Army knife on the defensive end more than Beal or any other guard typically would. So we'll have to see. The options are limited as we went through yesterday. I'll just throw one out and twist it a little bit. Not somebody who maybe sacrifices or even comes from externally, but just to continue to throw it out there and will it into existence, Ben. Ryan Dunn, right? I mean,
yes.
The elephant in the room. Yeah.
That you're 1000% right. I was gonna say that, but I'm like, we've beat this dead horse more than we can. But Ryan Dunn was drafted to be Derek White. Can he develop some 3-point shot? I don't know. I worry about the ability that he could do that. Just
especially in year one.
Because Josh Okogie is Ryan Dunn, just 6 inches too short. Like, he can't shoot. And he defends really well, and he's pesky, but he's not playable because you literally can't. He's too small, and you could just leave him in the corner. Just let him shoot. How many times do teams just let Josh Okogie shoot? Ryan Dunn is that guy. If Ryan Dunn turns into Derek Lively this year, like has the Derek Lively rookie season at the 3 spot, the Suns are winning a championship. They're winning a championship if everyone stays healthy, of course. But they're winning.
I think both of us would have put the rookie in that slot if we bought the likelihood being just a touch higher, right? I don't think either of us are willing to go there right now, but obviously I agree. If he can be anything close to any of the guys I listed or Derek Lively or whatever other example you want to throw out there, if he's even 60%, 70% of his way there, that really does change a lot for this team. All right, let's go to what could break the team. Things that we might be expecting to happen, but if they don't, oh God, here it comes. The end is near. What's going on? We'll get there next. First, today's show is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you don't have to go anywhere. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. I always hear that in Charles Barkley's voice whenever I have to say guaranteed here for the folks at FanDuel. When you place your first $5 bet, that's $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Mercury road dogs in game 2 of their playoff series. D-backs, I wouldn't recommend investing money in addition to your emotions there. Or hey, just look at the NFL Week 3 slate. FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Ben, let's keep it rolling. So I will start us off with what could break this Suns team this season. I want to remind everybody to check out the Locked On NBA podcast all month long, though, as well as we get Media Day already happened. There was already a Media Day today, Ben, in Boston. I don't understand how we're already here, but the folks at Locked On NBA got you covered on the national level each and every day, just like we do here for all of you Suns fans. My break, if the offensive peak we're waiting for never fully comes. So it's sort of the flip side of the coin of what you said with Bud, and I like the way you put that, and I agree. Bud bears a big responsibility to help it get there. But something that I've changed my mindset on a bunch, honestly, courtesy of the listeners and viewers of this show in the comments who have convinced me otherwise over time, is that being 9th on offense wasn't good enough. That's not good enough. The way that this team is constructed, being flashy, being top 10, being occasionally overpowering, and having some moments where the big 3 clicked, the standard has to be higher. We're going back and forth. Can they get Ryan Dunn? Can Grayson Allen step up because he gained 50 pounds? Can any of these guys do what we're hoping they do? Can Dorian Finney-Smith save the season? Maybe. I don't know. But before I care about any of that, this offense has to be at the level that the talent on the roster suggests that it should be. Top 5, top 3. Chase the number 1 place in the offensive rating numbers in the league. You have 3 of the best offensive players in the NBA. That should be what you're shooting for. And so if that does not happen, if they don't get closer to that and improve on ninth place, I think that this team is going to have a hard time overcoming the deficiencies that it has and being the type of team that we all want to see it become.
Shout out to the comment section. If they really taught you that,
they did it.
They're not a bunch of booger eaters like some of the other Locked On NBA teams' comment sections. Okay. That's a really good point. I had never thought of it like that.
The everydayers, man.
They
know a thing or two.
I mean, listen, they're not the booger eaters over at Locked On Lakers or the booger eaters over at Locked On Mavericks, that's for sure. But no, I think it's a really good point. Ninth isn't good enough. I never thought of it like that. I just see a top 10 offense and I go, yeah, it's pretty good. But they got to lean into what they're great at. My break of the season, and I really wanted to stay away from this because it's obvious, but I've talked about it because it's just a likelihood that it could derail it. And you know where I'm going, man. It's injuries. This team doesn't stay healthy. If this team doesn't stay, not even marginally, they got to stay significantly more healthier than they did. And that's a huge if. Yusuf Nurkic, I read you the games played before. He's pretty much a career over the last half decade, a 35 a game a year kind of guy. He played like 72 games last year. He missed a couple of games because he hurt his finger or something. The dude played. The dude played when he was fasting.
His uncle passed away. Yeah.
The dude played through Ramadan. Like he played through everything last year, which good on Yusuf Nurkic. If I'm being honest, I'm just expecting that to be an outlier. I don't think Kevin Durant is as brittle as people say he is. I don't think you're brittle because you tear your Achilles. I don't think that that's a thing. I think it's just a freak injury. But he has a history of at least getting injured before. He hurt his knee when he came over to the Suns. And Bradley Beal, man, that's a guy that's got to. He has to stay healthy. This team needs more chemistry. They need to play with him more. If that doesn't happen, it goes towards a lot of other things. The chemistry's bad. We're going into the playoffs again with what's our rotation? Well, we have 20 games left. Now we got to figure it out. When are they going to put it together? The injury thing, we know it's there. We do. But do we really? Are we acknowledging enough that this season can get derailed quickly? We didn't start the season with Bradley Beal for like the first 12 games or something. And we were just like, whatever, hurt his back. But like, he tweaked his back and he was out like almost a month or something ridiculous. This team's got to play together. They got to stay healthy. I don't know what it is. Maybe they got to drink more milk, take their vegetables. I don't know what it is. Take more ice baths. But if they do not stay healthy, especially for the first part of the season, it's going to be a miserable watch. Because then it feels like we're watching a team that we know that this isn't the actual team. How many times last year were you like, well, this isn't the final product, so we'll just wait. And then the final product never came. They've got to stay healthy. They've got to stay healthy. It's a big deal, man.
Imagine how big of a difference it'll be even, and I'm knocking wood because we're already close to this outcome being revealed to us, if Bradley Beal can even just be healthy for camp. We forget that, right? Because it was such a surprise, and all of a sudden, hold on, this back thing was a problem in Washington too. Like, why did we not know this and all that stuff? But as we were trying to get our heads screwed on, they were missing that valuable time, which is like the only time NBA teams get to practice in 2024. I mean, it's just not common in any sport that practice is what it used to be. So that was a huge dip. They just started 15 steps behind where they wanted to be. And then they missed games and those reps together on top of it. And I hate to be, that's a little bit of a positive. If Beal can be healthy for camp, there's my optimistic side. Pessimistic side, to double down on what you're saying, I don't want to be that guy, but they added one player in Royce O'Neal who's been a absolute machine. He's healthy. There's some young players who will play for this team. But Mason Plumlee and Monte Morris last year missed a lot of games each. They're also, I believe he's 29. Plumlee's in his 30s. He's mid-30s. He's about to turn 35 next year during the season. I don't know what it looks like when Bull has to play more minutes, if that time comes this year. You know what I mean? Damian Lee, I don't know if he's going to play. But the dude missed an entire season with one of the most gruesome. Like, I can't even hear him talk about what that injury was because of how ugly it was. So, yeah, it is a particular risk for this team, unfortunately, that you can't ignore. You can't ignore it.
And the Lakers have this issue too. And last year they stayed healthy. Like, look at the Lakers, despite the booger eaters that support that fan base. Look at the Lakers. They told everyone, listen, if we just stay healthy 2 years ago, I guess I should say, we made it to the Western Conference Finals. Sure, they got swept, but every game was close in their defense. If the Suns stay healthy, they could be a Western Conference Finals team. They could be a finals team. They match up well with a lot of guys. They're older, they're brittle, and man, it would be the worst. It would just be the worst and would suck all the likability and favorability and fun about this Suns season if it gets derailed once again because of injuries. Because not only is it going to suck for us, but everyone, the sports media fan base or whoever it is going to say, oh, I told you so. Everyone loves to take a victory lap, even if it's the stupidest thing like health. Well, I told you so.
Bill Simmons did this all last season. Every time the Suns would come up on his podcast, he would just say and will into existence a Yusuf Nurkic injury. And by the way, it never came. There was no victory lap there. But that's how lazy the analysis is going to be, especially if it actually happens, right? I mean,
well, that's Boston, guys.
Everybody jumping up and down like they're happy to see a guy not be able to do his job and what he loves to do and whatever else. It's goofy, but you're right.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that how many people will be like, well, Kevin Durant's going to get injured. Like, why would you even... Kevin Durant is one of the most fun players to watch play basketball. And next to Luka Doncic and James Harden at his prime, makes it look so easy and artistic. Why would you want that guy to get injured?
Yeah.
Just get specific. This is really, to me, a Yusuf Nurkic, a Monte Morris, and a Bradley Beal issue. Monte Morris can get injured. The other two can't. I am not signing up. Shield your ears, Bol fans in the comments. I'm not signing up for a Bol starting for an extended period amount of time. And I'm not signing up for a Mason Plumlee starting for a large amount of time. I saw how happy Clippers fans were Mason Plumlee was gone. I do think he'll fit better here, but I don't want to see the guy starting. That is a recipe for disaster.
Probability, right? Just the likelihood of how ugly it was last year should reverse course. But obviously that's not how individual human bodies work. They don't care what the likelihood of any of this is. All it takes, as we saw in KD's alleged home debut 18 months ago, is all it takes is a slip, and it sucks. But look, we got that out of the way. You mentioned likability. You mentioned all of us here, outsiders who can't go out on the court and affect the outcomes of things. How could things feel better for the next 6 months for all of us watching this team, experiencing this team, enjoying this team? How do the Suns' vibes get back on track next? First, today's show is brought to you by the Gametime app. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I told you, I'm looking in New York, going to visit a buddy. We're trying to see. They're hosting 2 NFL games in the weekend. I'm like, we got to go to one. Let's please find a deal that's just somewhat reasonable. Take the train, no Ubers and Lyfts, save money that way. Let's find some tickets that are reasonable. We did. We finally bought them today. I get to see Joe Burrow go kick Daniel Jones's you-know-what in New York City, all courtesy of the Gametime app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets. See the best deals with the pricing all up front with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA when you do to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right, Ben, let's close it out. So we both liked this idea as we were mapping out our season preview about the vibes. And I think we've talked around it and through it as we've done the first few questions here. Now we're in part 8. And let's just address it. It sucked to watch this team last year. It wasn't a fun follow. I didn't sit down, turn on my TV, or drive over to the arena. I mean, I love basketball. I like to watch this team. Of course, I'm always going to be there. But this was one of the worst ones that I can remember in a very long time since, honestly, I think that last season was worse than the COVID season when they were like below 500 pre-bubble. Because that was like, oh, everybody's breaking out. This is really interesting. Last year was just, you started here and it was just a roller coaster crash. So how can it get back on track? Do we have hope this year?
Two things. Yeah, there's a ton of hope with this team. It is a brand new team. And to that point, two things. The Phoenix Suns will never be as likable as they were in 2021 until 15 years from now, when there's a whole different brand new slew of new guys. Devin Booker's retired. I'm an old man. We both moved on to bigger and better things. Brendon has fired me by then.
No, I'm doing this for the next 15 years, man. I don't know about you.
Exactly.
I'll be here.
This team will never be that likable. You will almost the Arizona Diamondbacks last year will never be more likable than they were last year. Yep. Falling in love is much more fun and easier than choosing to love your team, than choosing to love whoever it is. Just harder. Falling in love is fun. It's different. It's new. Devin Booker was new to the whole world, and we had all these fans come in, and it was fun, and playoff tickets were cheaper, and it was cool to be a Suns fan. 2022 was fun, but we really just cared about the playoffs, and then it ended horribly. So forget about 2021. That's not the same girl. It's a different girl. Last year, forget about her as well. You need to drop the baggage from your past relationship last year. This is not the same team. It's a lot of different players. Eric Gordon is gone. Yuta Watanabe's gone. Chimezie Metu's gone.
Drew Eubanks, goodbye.
Drew Eubanks is gone. The $10 million man on his way to Utah. It's a different team. This team has hope. This team has a real chance to win a championship. I will never lie to people on this show. I will never blow smoke. It's what sometimes gets me in trouble with fans. This team is fun. There's a lot of hope. And the only thing standing in their way truly is health. If these Suns fans go into this season with zero expectations, with just the expectation of being good and viable, and when the playoffs come around, scrappy enough to win a championship, that's how it can get back. That is what needs to happen. And from the players' aspect, just needs to be more leadership and accountability. And I've got to see Kevin Durant stop messing with people. Listen, this is just kind of a side note, but it is just kind of annoying to have Kevin Durant in the news because he's fighting with some dude that doesn't know basketball on Twitter. Like, Kevin, you're not being insightful to anyone that actually cares. These are trolls. Who cares? And I don't like seeing you in the limelight on ESPN because of that. I want to see it because of your play. So it goes to the players for leadership, and it goes to the fans to moderate your expectations and stop thinking about the girl that's been gone for 4 years now. It's a different team.
Spoken like a married man. That was very, in tune with the contours of love. It's
true,
Ben.
Man. Like yeah. if you relate those things to life, like I love my wife. My wife is awesome. And I'm a man, like I just don't believe in, people have their own set of beliefs, and I, respect everyone, but like I just have the belief of that, like I'm never thinking about divorce. I'm never thinking about getting rid of my wife. I love my wife. Falling in love with my wife was the most amazing thing ever. Being married is awesome. But like, I have to choose to love my wife some days. And she has to choose to love me some days, because I know for all the people in the comment section, it is kind of right. Sometimes I can be a little irritating. And like, that's hard to do. And so, but you can find a different level of love by choosing to love your partner, by accepting them for who they are. And it's the same thing with your sports teams. You're never going to get Sean Marion, Steve Nash, and Amari Stoudemire back again. You're never going to get Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and Devin Booker back again. This is what you have. Choose to love them, which, by the way, is pretty awesome with two guys who will be Hall of Famers, and Bradley Beal, because everyone gets in the NBA Hall of Fame, is a fringe Hall of Fame guy. So, yeah, there's a little life lesson.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I think it kind of goes back to it's always going to be better after a year like we just saw, right? It's so easy to craft the narrative. We kind of talked about the players embracing it from this kind of underdog standpoint and the chip on the shoulder type of thing, whether it's their like Vegas over-under for win totals or, the the perception of Book being kind of, oh, he'll be a DNP guy in the Olympics, and all of a sudden everybody can't get enough of Olympic Book, and whatever the case might be. So we're already seeing the beginnings of what that can feel like for these players and this whole organization to kind of rally around, hey, last year sucked. It's only uphill from here. And I think it absolutely can. My vibe idea, the thing that I think has to kind of go right for everything to feel a little better this year is a word you already said, accountability. I think it goes in so many directions. Trust between players. That makes for more. I mean, it's basketball. We know this. It's 5 guys who have to be in sync with each other. If there's no accountability and respect between them, they're never going to play great basketball together. There's more depth and veterans and everything else. Okay, that's great. It only really works if those guys respect one another and have that level of accountability. Leadership obviously goes hand in hand, but I would even say some of the on-court stuff, right? Playing within a system. If you're going to build and buy into something like that, you got to be accountable to each other. That's how you're going to play. Raising your defensive ceiling. We know this team's limited on defense. If they're going to get to a level beyond and above what their talent tells you they should be, it's going to have to be because there's a level of accountability from the coach, from the best players to each other. To me, it's really this season, to me, from a watchability, from a vibe standpoint, it's about making the game come more easily for everybody involved. And I do think that is going to stem from a level of accountability, top down, side to side, bottom up, every direction that just was nowhere to be found last year. And I think if that can happen, it'll just feel better. It'll just be a more enjoyable product in every way.
Just to come full circle, a lot of that relies on Mike Budenholzer. He's got to be respected.
Yep.
He cannot take no nonsense. Cannot do what Frank Vogel did, who we talked about in a previous episode. He's got to be the quote-unquote man in the room. He's got to command this offense. He's got to demand respect. And the players simultaneously need to realize he is not going anywhere. So you better respect the guy and get along. So that's where I am with it. It's going to be a really good season. Seriously, it's going to be. Suns fans should not be, again, health, but that's the only thing. It's going to be a fun season outside of that. Like, Suns fans should not be dooming and glooming for the season coming up.
2 more questions to answer to round out the week as we begin to wrap up our season preview series. Media Days Monday. Ben and I will be there giving you our dispatch from live and in the mix. So what are you doing? Hit follow or subscribe. Be coming every day, or if you have not already, join the thousands of people. Yes, we're going to just bully you and say get on board. That's what all the cool kids are doing. Join us, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.